Check us out on Instagram. It's Dinger Dudes on both. I am joined here by the greatest twins that I have ever known, Mr. Chase and Andrew Jefferson, along with Mr. YouTube man himself, Jackson Bowles. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have a special guest joining us all the way from New York, Mr. Daniel Karp.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Oh, I'm not very excited about my team, but I'm excited to be here.
Hey, look, man, the team took a 2 out of 3 loss. You guys are still doing better than us in the standings. So you still got first place, I believe, in y'all's division, right?
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
They do.
thanks to the Astros, actually. Thanks to the Astros.
Speaking of, I'm gonna
Kissing
speak
their
on the
toes
Astros.
tonight.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question first. How was it experiencing Garrett Cole's season debut? Because I know you were at
Dude,
that game.
It was electric, actually, because I got there late. I didn't get there late. I got there later than I want to get there. I got there like 6:30, like a half hour before his pitch. And the Judge was not in the lineup that night. So when Judge doesn't get in the lineup, we all know how that is. And I got there. I'm sitting all the way up in like the top of the right field seats. My girlfriend doesn't like sitting in the bleachers because that's where I like to sit. So we're sitting all the way up there, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And they start the lineup. So usually like Volpe gets a big ovation, Judge always does, Soto does, Stanton does, and then like everybody else is like whatever. Dude, Garrett Cole's ovation was crazy. They really showed out for him. And like a lot, like I bought these tickets not under the assumption that he was pitching. I just got them because I needed to buy tickets for a game to get another game free. So those were the cheapest option, was that game.
Okay.
It's actually a good game though, so can't complain.
Yeah.
But it didn't end in a win, but it was a pretty good game. It was like 3 hours and 40 minutes. It was crazy. I was there at like 11 o'clock at night.
And he had a pretty solid return as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked pretty good. I mean, he's starting to not become a strikeout pitcher. I mean, he's a strikeout pitcher, power, but like he's really he's starting to rely on contact. We saw it last year. He relied on contact a lot more than he did the year before. He got hit. He got hit a little bit of hard contact, but like that's what I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to like be like 100 miles an hour anymore. I mean, he is what he is. He's a perfectionist. I trust him. Whatever he wants to do, you do you. Do what you gotta do.
We all know how the injury bug has struck the MLB lately, and it's a shame to see players like, Garrett Cole get struck with it, of course, Ronald Acuna, because like you said, you're not going to expect Garrett Cole to be throwing 100 plus like he was before his injury. And we have the same perspective with Ronald Acuna. He was a still in base machine, but when he gets back, I fully expect him to kind of lean off the big jumps and the big leads like he usually has, and his stolen base numbers are going to drop tremendously. He's still going to be a great hitter, but like we all know, Acuna's 2023 MVP season and you 70 plus stolen bases, we're never going to see that feat reached again because he's just going to have to be more cautious. No. But like you said, Garrett Cole, he's a professional, one of the best pitchers in MLB of the recent decade. He's going to find his rhythm again. He's still going to be Garrett Cole at the end of the day, and I really hope he is. But he's just a fun player to watch when he's on the mound.
And another two players who have been hit with the injury bug, Mookie Betts, the LA Dodgers, and Daniel Karp's New York Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton. You were texting me earlier about
Happy
that.
Holidays, everybody. Happy holidays, everybody. It's the annual Giancarlo Stanton injury.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just call it a holiday now. That's what it feels like. It's like give me the day off from whatever.
There's two things you can probably count on in the MLB season. It's Mike Trout getting injured and Giancarlo having some type of injury.
And this is another thing. Aaron Judge getting look like he's getting a freak injury, taken out for a game, being like, "Why are you taking him out?" Comes back the next day, hits a home run. That's another guarantee.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, and it's what really sucks about Stanton's injury and the fact that it happened right this moment is because we all know Stanton, he's a home run hitter. He's been seen as like kind of like a Kyle Schwarber type guy at the plate. But recently, not only was he hitting home runs like he typically does, he was just getting on base. His on-base percentage was boosting up. His batting average was boosting up. This was like a different version of Giancarlo Stanton that we haven't really seen in a while. Yeah, exactly. So fans were getting excited. Like Stanton's his RBI count is gonna rise up because he's gonna be driving in runners in scoring position, and he's not gonna be going for the long ball all the time. He's just gonna try to be as most productive as he can when he's at the plate, and then get struck with the injury bug, like I just said. And I hate it for the league. I hate it for the game.
Jogging.
He was jogging.
The OPS is around 800 too. So
Yeah, it wasn't like
pretty
Michael
good.
Harris. Yeah, it wasn't like Michael Harris's injury when Harris was trying to hustle a third. You know, like you said, Stanton was just doing a light jog, and now we're sitting here
and he
talking
does it
about
purposely, so he doesn't. Yeah.
Hey, I know we're talking about Stanton, and speaking of Stanton, how about Rosario for the Tampa Bay Rays? It brought me flashbacks to Stanton in Miami when he got nailed in
That
the
was
face.
scary.
Watch Rosario take a
Ahmed
fastball right to
Rosario?
the jaw, man. That dude, I didn't see it live, but I saw a replay of it. Dude, like my heart stopped, dude. And like I instantly remembered Stanton back when he played for Miami. The reason he has that
The face
guard
guard?
on his face guard on his helmet now. It's just like,
I don't-
man, like
I recall his, but I also recall. Do y'all remember Jason Hayward when he got hit in the
I
face
do.
with that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
fastball?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it just reminds me of those. I mean, also, we also had another instance. Jacob Webb nailed somebody. I think it was Kevin Pillar. Kevin Pillar had to have like
I think
facial
that's what I was
reconstruction.
going to bring up. Toronto Blue Jays Kevin Pillar, when he got his whole face was like demolished, and he had to have like nose
I
reconstruction
mean, there's
surgery
so
or
many you can
whatever.
point to. Charlie Culberson also, when he tried to go for a bunt, got nailed in the face.
Well, I
I
don't
think
know
it's
what's
more
going on.
scarier getting hit in the face by a line drive. That's what's more scary.
Oh yeah, it has to. Well, even
Yeah.
like Sean Murphy back in that Red Sox series when he got nailed in the elbow and the welt that grew in like a minute, and like even though he said it wasn't as bad as it looked, it's like man, like you go up to bat, man, like you never know when these pitchers could lose control on a pitch they're normally dominant with, and like you could get hit anywhere, man. It's like I
You're
couldn't
just
imagine.
sitting there. You're up against a Paul Skeens who's throwing 102, 103. He just loses control of a fastball, and all of a sudden you're about to meet the Lord.
I mean, even someone as good as Paul Skeens could easily lose control, man. Like it's just part of the game. It happens now.
And that's the thing, like Paul better make sure he never loses control of his stuff because
God, I hope not.
you got like Charlie
Might lose
Morton
control
as-
of Livy Dunn. That's one thing.
wow. Okay, Jackson.
My
Of course, you had to
friend
break-
met him today. My friend went to Pittsburgh today. Posted a picture with her.
Dude, no way.
With Livy Dunn, dude.
Oh, look at that,
Yeah.
man.
Andrew would
Living
be
every
this guy over
every
here.
guy's dream right now.
Dude,
But
you
this-
have no
this
idea.
guy
Look at
over
your
here.
water now. Andrew's starting to sweat a little bit.
Hey,
He's drinking water.
you don't understand. When we're in New York, every single billboard and like thing would show Livy Dunn, and Andrew would be like,
Dude, okay,
Well,
you have no
you
idea,
had a
man.
big,
laser eye.
what are we in June now? About a month and a half ago, every billboard in New York was Jalen Brunson.
yeah. But I do want to take it back a little bit to like the players getting hit in the face because I found it kind of funny because you saw Rosario's incident. And, on the same day, I was watching Game 2 of the Braves and Yankees series. It was broadcasted by Fox. So, of course, you had the Braves legend, John Smoltz, in the broadcast booth.
Oh.
And I noticed that his eye was swollen. And then, of course, he starts talking about how a few days ago he was hit by a golf ball when he was just driving a golf cart, and I guess somebody hit off a tee and hit John Smoltz around the eye. So I'm like, I guess even when you're retired, you can't really avoid it. It just happens.
I love this response too. They asked him, they're like, did you seek medical attention right away? He goes, not after I finished my round of golf. I'm like, dude, like how? Like that's not even human.
Hey, you want to know what's not human? One thing about Giancarlo Stanton. I saw an interview like a couple years ago. You know what a Kit Kat bar looks like?
Oh,
Do you
Where
know
you
that?
going?
What do you gotta say?
Hold on. This is relevant.
I think I know where
He
you're going.
doesn't break apart the Kit Kat. He eats all four at once. That's diabolical.
Oh, gosh.
Is that true?
makes sense.
That's true.
Hey, when you're
Maybe-
Stanton, yeah, you can do what you want. I'm not gonna mess with him.
Maybe he does deserve the injury. That's so
abysmal,
wrong.
bro.
That's
Come
so
on,
wrong.
man.
Wait, so you guys were when you were in New York in March. That was the first time in New York.
Yeah,
That was
that's the first time.
us three. Steven's been to
Oh,
New York.
yeah.
before.
I've
So
been to
you-
New York twice before then.
So you never
I
been
had
to
a best friend that
Yankee Stadium?
used to live in New York, but
Wait, You
yeah,
said what?
You guys never been to Yankee Stadium?
No.
I have
I've
been.
never been.
I have been.
You haven't. Okay, so I don't know if you were there. Were you there prior COVID?
I was, yeah.
Okay,
After COVID.
so you want to talk about things that are whatchamacallit, guaranteed. You go to Yankee Stadium, two chants that are always going to be chanted out no matter what. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yep, I do.
It's
F.
the player
Altuve,
team, right?
F. Altuve and F. Troy Young. No matter what.
Oh, really?
Really?
We gotta talk.
Trae Young's
F.
catching
Trae
balls at
Young
a
and
baseball
F.
game?
Altuve. No matter what. You're going down the steps. It's Trae Young and Altuve. At some point during the game, when you go there, it's gonna be Trae Young and Altuve.
The
I'm
funny
so
thing
glad
is,
you brought that up.
Hey, you know
that's
what's
the
funny?
game that I
So-
went to. I went to the game where, and I'm sorry to bring this up because I know Yankees fan. It was a game that the Yankees got no hit. It was against
the
the
Astros.
Yeah, that was the game I
I
went
was
to.
I was at the game like the day before that. I think it was awesome.
Yeah,
But Daniel, I'm so glad you brought up the
Sorry.
Trae Young thing because when we were in New York, we did have
The
the
Mets
opportunity
game?
because of course we are, or me and Chase are Hawks fans. We got a fake
Yeah.
Celtics fan right here, and then Steven, he's Hawks
I'm
fan.
a real Celtics fan, baby. Where's my
But
hat?
we went
My
to
hat is over there.
we went to the Nets game because the Hawks happened to be in playing at the
That's
Nets in
awesome.
Brooklyn
That's
when we were
cool.
there. So we were
And Brooklyn's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And I know
cheap.
exactly how Knicks fans feel about Trae Young because of how he terrorized New York in the 2021 playoff run. But I didn't know that Brooklyn people, had a feeling for Trae Young either. But we showed up to the game all decked out in Trae Young jerseys, and it was just F Trae Young the entire night. And I was like, why do Brooklyn fans hate him too? Like, I guess it's just a combined New York thing.
You know what I found weird about that though? Like when we were in Brooklyn, it was F Trae Young, F Trae Young. But then when we started walking through Times Square that night and going back to where we stayed, I got compliments on my. I got praise and high fives. I'm like, I don't know if it was sarcasm or they were genuinely like praising me for being bold by just wearing a Trae Young jersey.
You were you said you were wearing a Young jersey during that, right? Or because with the Braves jersey, I mean, I feel like just New York. I don't really think New York Yankees are. It's the Mets. The Mets. Yeah, Mets fans would probably sit there.
Obviously.
But I was wearing my Trae Young jersey, so like all the Trae Young's ops are in New York, so I thought I thought I was taking a big risk there, but I guess they're just praising me for being bold. I don't know.
Hey, there are a lot of trade rumors surrounding Trae Young, right? I want to talk about some trade rumors in the MLB. We see guys like Luis Robert, Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Jesus Luzardo on the board out there. I want to talk about some trades. Who do y'all think is going to get traded? Where to? Who do you want on your team? Who do you think they need? Let's start with whoever.
I was gonna say, can we start with Daniel Karp? I know that we were messaging on Instagram a couple of days ago, and you were saying that you have a lot, especially in the bullpen, some moves that you'd like to see the Yankees make. So I would like, if you don't mind, emphasizing on that a little bit.
I am in need of a lot. I'm a very impatient Yankee fan. That's what I come across as. Bullpen. I need 2 bullpen guys. I need the top of my trade wish list is Michael Kopech.
Okay.
Ooh, white. Yeah.
Because, dude, he moved. A lot of people saying Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is cool and all, but you're not gonna. He's having a lot of success in the rotation right now. I'm not gonna bring him over here and just slide him into the bullpen again. It just messes. It just messes with the system. Like look at Jordan Hicks. He was a bullpen guy, starter. He bullpen again. Now he's in the starting rotation, but he had an offseason to work on himself as a starter. And look where he is now, playing really well. Like it's hard. It's hard. Like I remember when the Mets used to do it with Seth Lugo all the time. They used to switch him from starter to reliever, starter to reliever. So Michael Kopech at the top of my list. I know it's AJ Minter. That was just me. Just like that was my frustration on the Braves because I like AJ Minter. Yeah. Fielder. I know they were saying Pete Alonso, but I was like,
hey, y'all just got what's his name?
We got JD
Davis.
We got JD Davis today. I like it. I mean, he's probably gonna DH for the next 4 weeks or whatever. Maybe play a little third base because the Yankees the third base situation is not good right now. Probably I like Ryan McMahon, lefty bat. OPS is like 800 right now. Rumors surrounding him, but I don't know what the Rockies are gonna want. They have no direction right now, so I would say Ryan McMahon, Michael Kopech for me.
Hey, if you're talking about a relief pitcher, I know you throw a guy like Kopech. There's another guy in the NL Central, David Bednar. I know he's been on the injury list a lot this season.
Bednar.
But David Bednar's been thrown out a lot.
But I think the Pirates have a direction, and he's he is their closer for the future. Because give him 2 more years, it's gonna be great.
I mean, just give that entire Pirates team a couple of more years, and I feel like they're actually going to be, in my opinion, the NL Central is still open. I know the Brewers have a decent lead, But I mean, if there's any division leader in the National League right now that I feel like can lose their lead, it's the Milwaukee Brewers. So
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah, the NL
Yeah, I
Central
mean,
is tight.
it's the only logical choice, I guess.
And the
Yeah.
Pirates are starting to find their identity behind the players like Brian Reynolds, Ornell Cruz, Brian Hayes, and of course, Paul Skeen's going to be the future of that rotation.
And
so,
they have Jared Jones and Mitch Keller as well.
right.
you have that
that's
veteran
awesome.
leadership also in Andrew McCutchen, who's just kind of riding out his last years in the Pirates uniform. But I just think it's really cool what the Pirates are kind of building over there. Even
And
though
that-
it would actually hurt me if they won the World Series because we'll never hear from it from our
Buddy,
respective
Brendan Willoughby Ray. Shout out Brendan, who's probably going to be on maybe next week, couple week episode. But I want to talk about a guy who I want to come to the St. Louis Cardinals. All of these three have been hating on me about our pitching. And it does.
It does
It genuinely does. It sucks.
Thank you,
Thank
Daniel.
you, Daniel. Thank you.
But the bats are actually doing really well. And we have, since Mother's Day, we have the best record in the National League, 24-13. But our pitching is what needs help. There's a guy I want to come back to St. Louis who's doing really well in Detroit. Give me Jack Flaherty. I want Jack. We have Steven Matz.
Oh my gosh.
No, we have Steven Matz out for right now. He wasn't doing anything anyway. It was honestly one of the worst contracts that the Cardinals have made in the past 5 years. But Jack Flaherty, he's doing pretty well out in Detroit. And not gonna lie, I kind of miss him in St. Louis. He's only like what Steven's age? 38, 35. He's
little
he's
older.
20. He's
That's
28.
right.
He's
Hey, Jackson.
28. Yeah, he's 28.
Okay, Jackson, I want to emphasize that. Okay. The thing about St. Louis is I know like he's a righty. Y'all need to add some more lefties to y'all's rotation. And here's the thing about Fleury. I know he was a former St. Louis Cardinal, and then y'all dished him to Baltimore, and Baltimore's goal when they got him was to use him to help them with that sneaky playoff push that they made last year. But instead, he ended up hurting the Orioles more than he did help them, especially in that postseason play. And then he comes to Detroit and he's starting to revive a little bit. So I think a player the Cardinals need to target instead is Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo. Now here's the thing. The problem with Luzardo though is he's with this, what's he having, stress in his lower back. So I know he's back on the 15-day IL.
It's one of those weird injuries.
And I know he was like a popular trade target, but I think teams are starting to back off on him a little bit because it was reported that he's still going to be on the IL come after the trade deadline. But I think he's a player that the Cardinals could target and pair him with Sonny Gray, add that lefty to the rotation. It can be kind of like a 1-2 punch with Gray and Luzardo. So that's a move I would like to see the Cardinals make.
Funny thing is about Jack Flaherty is I feel like you're talking about different levels of pressure. With the Tigers right now, there's not as much as they're improving. Don't get me wrong; they definitely improved since last year. There's not a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be like, okay, we're trying to make a playoff push.
Like a make or break
type. Be a playoff push here. Then you transfer over that to the Cardinals, who are a wild card team right now. So that's just another level of pressure, and we didn't see that really work out well when it came to him going to the Orioles last year. So if you get Jack Flaherty, I'm not sure that's going to be as good as you think it will be.
Right.
Well,
I agree.
I'm glad you are bringing up these points because I want to transition this into my own team, the Atlanta Braves. Because, of course, we all know the special magic that the Braves have in Alex Anthopoulos and the kind of moves that he can make to turn the season around. We saw that in 2021 when the Acuna went down midseason, and it was a big question mark on whether or not the Braves would even make a solid playoff push. And then here he is bringing players out of nowhere like Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler from Kansas City, Jock Pearson, who brought big electricity to that Braves postseason run. But this is something, and of course, people are kind of looking for Alex to do the same thing in the outfield now that Harris is down. Of course, Acuna's hurt. Kelenic is playing amazing since he's been in the leadoff spot. We saw him hit a home run today, as a matter of fact. But I think one thing that the Braves need to pay a little more attention to is actually bringing in another veteran piece to our bullpen, especially with all the mixed signals that AJ Minter's giving us in terms of injury. Because like you guys said, postseason impact matters, especially when it comes to these pitching. And the Braves back in 2021, aside from Luke Jackson, because screw that guy, the Braves really did ride their
Look,
pitching.
I'm going to give Lucas credit. He was a big part of that 2021 championship team.
If you say so, Steven, if you say so.
But I'm not going to get into all that. But basically what I'm saying is the Braves really did lean on that bullpen pitching, especially in the World Series against the Astros. And I would really like if the Braves could go out and get just one veteran piece to stick in our bullpen that is going to continue to be relevant once the postseason comes around. So that way the Braves can just have more dependency in that area, because of course, pitching in general has really hurt us in the last few series against the Phillies when it comes to the playoffs. And I don't want another repeat. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts as far as what I think Alex should do.
I think that, don't get me wrong, bullpen, you can always use more arms in your bullpen. That's always just it doesn't hurt. But in my opinion, I think that's been one of our stronger points this year is our bullpen. Pierce Johnson's been doing great. Right. Joe Jimenez, ups and downs here and there, but Joe Jimenez has been solid. Raisel Iglesias has been a solid person to have close games out. I think our bullpen's still a top bullpen in the league. But the one thing I really feel like we need to stress is another starter. I mean, don't get me wrong. We do have great starters. We have Ronaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, Max Fried leading that rotation. And obviously you have Charlie Morton. But Schwellenbach, I don't think that's going to be our answer for the rest of the year. So getting another solid starter that you feel like you can rely on for the rest of the year,
like a Tyler Anderson from Los Angeles.
That's exactly who I'm thinking of. Tyler Anderson from the Angels, a lefty who in his last 5 starts has only given up. He's given up pretty much 1 run in his last 5 starts, except for a start against the Astros where he gave up 4. But I mean, he's 6-7 with a 2.48 ERA this year. Those 7 losses, obviously, the Angels' offense is downright awful. So I mean, not a lot of those losses aren't his fault. So I really feel like maybe targeting him, getting a guy like that, is going to be key for the Braves if they're going to try and chase after another run.
Steven, I like your point, but I'm going to shake up that argument a little bit. Now, I know you just mentioned Schwellenbach, who, like you said, he might not be that answer that, to complete that starting rotation for the Braves. However, he is still a top prospect on the Atlanta Braves. Now, here's an idea that I've been doing some research on and an idea that I really love. The Houston Astros, they are in a weird position right now. They are heading into the season expecting to contend, and it has just not turned out that way. And now they're facing a situation where they might not make the postseason this year, and this offseason they could lose some of their top players. One of those players being Kyle Tucker, who is hating his time in Houston right now. He is not a big fan of the new manager, and they are trying. Well, a lot of Houston Astros insiders have said that a time to work a new deal with Kyle Tucker is way overdue now. It just can't be done. And they don't even think Kyle Tucker wants to come back to Houston. So they're thinking, instead of letting him walk to free agency, why don't we trade him now where his value is still the highest? And one of the potential trade targets I've been seeing everywhere is the Atlanta Braves, where we could use Schwellenbach, we can use Daniel Vines, and get rid of some of those top prospects that maybe we don't see playing a big role for us in the near future, and using those pieces to go out and get someone like Kyle Tucker, who can complete the outfield hole that we're facing now with the loss of Ronald Acuna.
You're going to have to give him a lot. For Kyle Tucker.
I don't think so.
If I know Alex Anthopoulos, and I do, dude, it's too much of this. It's going to be way too much of this.
You're gonna get Jock Peterson and Jorge Soler.
Houston's about to go out. Houston's about to. They're going to crap the bed this year. They're going to go out and they're going to start over next year with this new manager. I think top prospects is something the Astros want more than anything right now. I don't think we'll have to give up an arm and a leg for someone like Kyle Tucker, because he doesn't even want to stay in Houston. They need to get rid of him now, and I think they'd be more than happy to get a bunch of top prospects in return.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Can I throw in a curveball real quick?
Because I'll hit out the park, Andrew.
This is something that I think is interesting, and I think I could see Alex Anthopoulos doing. If not this, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I think we'll definitely see this kind of fall into place next year. And I think it all revolves around Orlando Arcia's future with Atlanta. Because here's something that I'm thinking: Orlando Arcia, he's a great defensive shortstop.
Yeah,
He's
but
made
he's
some
like
spectacular.
30. He's hitting in his age 30 season.
That's where I'm getting. So Orlando Arcia, he's playing like a Gold Glover over in the shortstop position. He's made some spectacular plays for the Atlanta Braves. We've seen it in the most recent series. But the one thing that we've also seen is his strikeout rate and percentage strikeout to now, I think it's 22%, which is horrendous. That's way above the MLB average. And he's just not producing at the plate. But there's a guy sitting in AAA, or he might be in AA, I can't remember. But he's a shortstop prospect in Atlanta. That's not only making Gold Glove plays in the infield like Arcia, but he is absolutely destroying baseballs at the plate. And that's Nacho Alvarez Jr. If you go look at his stats throughout 48 games in the AA, it's absolutely spectacular. And this is something that I think we could use. Trade Arcia away and help get a guy like Kyle Tucker. Not saying that we trade Arcia to the Astros or anything. And Daniel, I want to ask you about this because we've kind of seen what the Yankees are doing right now at the first base position with their farm system prospects like Ben Rice, who I think is one of the best defensive first basemen I've ever seen coming right out of the minor league. So what do you think about Ben Rice?
Especially that Saturday game against the Yankees. His defense was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a little worried about his inexperience at first base, but like it's not really hard to play first base. Catchers slide over to first base pretty naturally, but it's interesting to see what they do next year. Is Austin Wells going to be sent down? Is he going to be part of a trade? Do they keep Jose Trevino next year? Do they platoon Austin Wells, Ben Rice, catcher first base? There's a lot of different directions you could go, and it's a great problem to have, but it's a great problem to have if they'll produce. And a common theme we see with Yankees prospects is that they get called up and they just don't produce. They're not good at producing. I would say besides Dominguez and Aaron Judge, I don't even know if I can remember a prospect that came up and maybe Gleyber Torres' first two. I can't really think of now I'm thinking of Miguel Andujar. I'm thinking of a bunch of guys now, but there's definitely a common theme over the last maybe 2-3 years where they call guys up and they just don't produce. I could think of Everson Pereira came up last year, bad. Oswald Peraza really hasn't found his stroke. Anthony Volpe just wasn't really good last year. Hit the ball harder last year, but he's not hitting the ball as hard this year. In a mini slump right now. But it's just a common theme. They don't really seem like they're able to produce prospects become major league players, because you see the guys that they have on the team right now, besides Aaron Judge, who's homegrown, everybody else is a trade package or a free agent signing. There's nobody that's been homegrown from that team that they've turned into really good major leaguers. I mean, I look at the Giants and I see they got Tyler Estrada, who's really good up there. The Rangers had Ezekiel Duran, that whole team was great last year, and all of a sudden they just fell off a cliff. But it's very annoying. And to see Ben Rice, it's a very, very small sample size, but to see him, his swing looks great. He looks like really good. I mean, this is a guy that I'm taking very seriously because this is potentially a first baseman of the future, because Anthony Rizzo's gone after this year. Unfortunately, he's old.
He's like 35.
The concussion, I think, messed him up. Unfortunately, it happens. But Ben Rice looks good. I almost witnessed his first career home run. It fell short of the wall. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what they're going to do against first base. Austin Wells will play a little first base too, so they'll probably be platooning him. DJ LeMay, he's a really good defensive first baseman. Hasn't really hit though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about another shortstop. We were talking about Volpe and guys like them, but we have 6 minutes left in this meeting, and then we're going to start another meeting, talk about the Barry Bonds debate. First of all, I want to shout out Yankees prospect Greg Bird. I just want to shout out Greg Bird because Greg Bird's a legend.
Yankees prospect. He's tearing up the Mexican. He's tearing up the
Mexican league.
Wait, I gotta see how he's doing. I check him every so often.
But I wanted to talk about two Blue Jays before we end this. Bichette and Guerrero Jr. Where do they go? Do they stay? What are y'all's thoughts on that, Steven?
344. with OPS almost at 1100.
Oh my
Get
gosh.
out of here.
But
Jesus.
Steven, where do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I'm not really sure where they would go. I mean, honestly, I really feel like they're going to be more towards the American League side of things. They're going to be traded on the American League, like one of the teams over there. Obviously, you've got, in my opinion, here's the crazy thing about the National League right now. The wild card race is like between 7 teams, it's between one game for all of them. So it's honestly anybody's ball game. I could see the maybe Seattle making a play, maybe the Guardians making a play for or actually the Royals. I don't know, maybe the Royals try and make a play for maybe not Bo Bichette, but I'm just thinking like just to add more power to the lineup, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's the thing about Vladimir Guerrero is that he's not just a guy that's just going to be playing first base for you. That's a DH. I mean, it's a guy that you can just obviously slide into your DH spot. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna move it over to what you guys think. It's kind of anybody's ball game right now,
Hey,
honestly.
I can see a Vladimir Guerrero going to a team like the Minnesota Twins. Carlos Santana, move him over to the DH spot. He's like 36, 37 years old. Don't get me wrong. He still can rake. He can still hit. He has like 9, 10 homers on the season so far at this age. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he hasn't. I like Vlad Jr., but he hasn't done anything in Toronto. And what I mean, what I mean by that is like put him on a team that will give you success.
Well, here's the thing.
They were supposed to be successful.
Yeah, they were.
They were.
But the
They were
Minnesota
the
Twins
favorites in
are
the
heading in
American
that
League 2
direction
years,
right now.
21 and 22. That's what they were
Yeah.
favorites.
Right.
Rightfully so.
And I like what you said, Steven. I completely agree about him staying in the American League. And I think the trade deadline is going to be interesting for the National League because of like what you said. It's so wide open. And there's so many wildcard teams that are so tight right now. And that's going to cause a lot of teams to be hesitant to deal, players that are heavy in the trade discussions right now because they are still included in this playoff race. But like this thing about Vlad, like everybody there's so much praise going on when he was first uprising as a player because of his father, and they want him to continue that legacy that, in Toronto with the Blue Jays. But I don't think it's that he hasn't done anything in Toronto. It's just that he has no one else to help him in Toronto because like there's so much inconsistency. Like you look at I guess you can say Bo Bichette's been just as good, but like they've been so underwhelming. They're the Atlanta Hawks to me of the MLB. The potential is there, but there's no like chemistry. They're not meshing together, and there's so much dysfunction.
Like I'm looking at that.
They're not extremely bad, but they're also not good either.
Like that Blue Jays rotation is solid with Yusei Kikuchi, Gosman, and Barrios.
You look at Springer, though, at the start of the season, he was horrible. And now he's picking up a little bit. But, like, it's that same inconsistency that the Blue Jays have faced for the past 3-4 seasons. Yeah. It's not that Vlad's not doing anything. It's just the inconsistency. Like, it's going to kill you every time.
Well, I'll say it's pretty quick. And this is a kind of weird problem that the Blue Jays are in right now because they are in the space where they had the ability to make it places, but they're just not going there. They're not moving. They're just staying stationary. So moves have to be made, but the Blue Jays GM has already publicly announced that they don't have any interest in trading Vlad Guerrero or Bo Bichette in the near future. But we all know that if a guy like Vlad Guerrero leaves Toronto, then I think a guy like Bo Bichette is going to follow. And oddly enough, I think in the future we could see Bo Bichette leaving the Blue Jays. And even though they're division rivals, I think a team like the Red Sox would fit him perfectly. Because I think the thing that the Red Sox are lacking is a good contact hitter that can consistently get on base.
And Bo Bichette is. Are you talking about Bo Bichette or Vlad?
All that.
Yeah, Bo Bichette. And the Red Sox have a lot of young prospects, especially in their farm system, that I think the Blue Jays would be interested in. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Toronto.
The Blue Jays
are an interesting team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And I was going to say that they kind of mirror the Astros in a little bit this season, expecting to compete, but all of a sudden they might have to quickly shift directions before they find themselves in a hole that's going to take years to get out of.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to Dinger Dudes. In this week's Hot Corner Clash, we're going to debate the king of home runs. 7 MVPs. He is a jack of all trades.
This is a magic
The
trick?
queen of San Francisco Bay.
Queen?
Barry Bonds.
And
Should
the
he be
great
a Hall of Famer
Is that
or
one
not?
of- I didn't know that was one of his nicknames. Is that really one of his nicknames?
No. I was just going in order of what I had.
I was like, I
No,
was
it's
so
not.
confused. I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody call Barry Bonds the queen of.
First, I heard it.
Yeah,
So
but we have 5 people on this panel.
Good job,
Two
Jackson.
of these people think Barry Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. 3 of these people do. Make sure to like and subscribe and put your comments in the video below, and tell us what you think. So we're gonna start with one of the guys who thinks Barry Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Which one of you two want to go?
I'm just gonna go and throw in a disclaimer, and this disclaimer goes for both Chase and I. When I get into discussion like this, I say that Barry Bonds does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, I'm not saying that he's not worthy to be in the Hall of Fame, because I want to go ahead and point this out now. You take his years in Pittsburgh before the steroid era really hit the MLB, that is still numbers worthy to be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm not sitting here to debate that Barry Bonds was not good enough to be in the Hall of Fame, because that's just idiotic. Everybody knows that even despite the steroids, despite all the drugs he took, performance enhancements, whatever, Barry Bonds is still one and should be recognized as one of the best, if not the best hitters in MLB history. But just because he's worthy of it doesn't mean he's deserving of it. And let me go in and start listing off these bullet points that I have right here. So these are the things that you have to take into consideration when you talk about should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame and why they ended. Wait, what?
But I said before you start, since me and you are kind of like teaming up on like this little because in case you didn't know, me and Andrew are the ones who don't think Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Again, not
count as one person, so
no. But listen, so I'm also pointing out the fact that is it a little biased because he is taking the home run rank from my glorious Hank Aaron? Might be a little bit, but Hank Aaron will always be.
Oh,
You
cut out, Chase. But we all knew what you were gonna say.
Yeah,
Hank Aaron always had my heart.
Shut up, Jackson. Before I pass the torch to you, Chase, let me just go and tell you this. This is the things you have to take into consideration, and why
My
the
glorious
MLB
king is up next.
Oh wow! Okay, that was
My
a good
glorious
pull.
king is next.
That was a good
stand
pull.
up.
That was a good pull. I'll rise to that.
I respect it. I can't. You might not be wrong.
So this is what's in question here. Bonds, despite the pre-drug era version of Barry Bonds, he did gain a significant competitive advantage by using the performance-enhancing drugs, and I'm going to go ahead and get into that. Specifically, it was PEDs, for those who don't know, and it did alter his physical composition, and that didn't even pass the eye test. You can even see it from his transition to Pittsburgh to San Francisco.
There's a famous picture of his 1992 season with Pittsburgh. I think it was his 94 season with the Giants, and his physical transformation wasn't even human for 2 years growth if you're just using straight physical training. It was you pass the eye test that PEDs were definitely being used.
And this is what I'm going to say right here is very important for my argument. And what it is his use of the PEDs that he took not only compromised the integrity of the game of baseball, but it also undermined its competitive spirit, which cast a huge shadow on all of his great accomplishments. And this is why that's very important, because the BBWAA is a voters association that really has the big say of if players are going to make the Hall of Fame or not. And a big component of this association rules that a player's integrity and character and their overall criteria really impacts whether or not they're Hall of Fame worthy or not. So it's far more than just stats that this association takes in consideration. It's the integrity that this guy had that the player had when it comes to achieving such an accomplishment as making the Hall of Fame. And electing Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame would compromise the Hall of Fame's credibility, and it would ultimately fail their standards when it comes to sportsmanship and fair
Pulling this off a
play.
website. This ain't his real words.
You can literally look this up. You're not going to find this on any website. This came from me because I've had this conversation with several people because this really irritates me. And why it irritates me is because Barry Bonds is an absolute legend, and I think that he is worthy of it. And let's go ahead and take a dive into his full career before I. Wow! Look at that!
That's
Look
the
at
picture
that!
we were talking about. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. That is the exact picture we were talking about too.
That is beautiful.
I don't know why it's so off-centered.
Hey,
That is beautiful.
now look at a picture from his rookie season. That was in '91 with Pittsburgh, and look how different he looks just like 5 seasons prior.
So I'm glad you said Pittsburgh, Chase, because let's go to Pittsburgh. I'm going to go throw out his rookie numbers because this is kind of when people knew that Barry Bonds is going to escalate into something great. He led all MLB rookies with 16 home runs, 48 RBIs, and 36 stolen bases, and 65 walks to go with that. So he wasn't really a big strikeout guy either. And then if you go over to his second season, he escalated with 25 home runs, 59 RBIs, took a little dip in the stolen bases with 32. And during this era, back in like the late 1980s, this was very impressive. And then you go to his first All-Star season, which I think was 1990, but you might have to fact check me on that.
You're right. It was 90.
He cranked 33 home runs, 114 RBIs, which is absolutely ridiculous, and 52 stolen bases. That was the equivalent of what we saw Acuna do last year back in the 1990s. That's basically how people view Barry Bonds' season. And what's crazy to me is before Barry Bonds took any of these performance enhancements, he already had 411 home runs to his name. People knew that Barry Bonds was going to easily surpass 500 home runs.
With those 3 seasons in Pittsburgh, he was averaging a 300 or around a 300 batting average in those 3 seasons in Pittsburgh.
So people already knew that Barry Bonds was going to go down as an MLB legend. But as he reached his mid-30s and transitioned over to the Bay Area in San Francisco, he decided to take a different approach because he wanted to see if he could escalate himself and take the home run record away from Hank Aaron. And he also did that along with guys like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, which Sammy Sosa is also not in the Hall of Fame for similar reasons. But when Barry Bonds transition from Pittsburgh to San Francisco and kind of hit his mid-30s, people knew that he would surpass 500 home runs, but people knew that getting the Hank Aaron numbers was kind of out of the equation because he was already in the dog days of his career, I guess. But this is what's so mind-boggling to me. After Barry Bonds took his performance-enhancing drugs from 2002 to 2004, he hit 136 home runs. That is something that is inhumane. That is something that he wouldn't even get close to without those performance-enhancing drugs. And that ultimately led his voyage to take Hank Aaron's home run record. And that's what he's recognized. That's like the holy grail of home run hitting accomplishments. And that's something that the MLB Hall of Fame can't look at when it comes to talking about putting him in the Hall of Fame because he wouldn't have accomplished that without taking those performance-enhancing drugs.
Hey, can we say our side?
Yeah, I'm done. That's all I had to say. I want to hear what you guys
but
have.
before you go, Jackson, before you go, Adrian, I'm going to high five. Where are you? Where are you on my screen? So, like you said, this is going to be a very quick point, but the 2002 to 2004 seasons when he did something so humane where it was clear and obvious he was using PEDs, the committee Barry Bonds said in a podcast that during those seasons, the committee was telling him, we know you're using PEDs and this is going to affect where you stand heading to the Hall of Fame. So to try to combat that, in 2003, he stood in front of a jury and he got his allegations vindicated, saying he was okay to go. But the committee said that's not good enough. We don't care what the jury says. We are men of morals, and what you're doing is not morally correct. That's what they told him.
And it ultimately comes down to what the association has to say, not what the jury has to say.
That's my reaction right there.
Go, Jackson. What you got to say
what
about
Steven just did. I'm on the side that Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. These two are jokers. They are jokers. I
don't want to be
on
your team anymore if you're going to use the card.
You two made a great point earlier. Barry Bonds established himself as one of the greatest power hitters before he started using steroids. He was caught using steroids in the year 1998. He averaged 33 homers, 102 RBIs during those seasons. That was unheard of back then. Nowadays, the league average is 30 homers. Back then, the league average was like early 20s. So he still would have been a Hall of Famer regardless, even if he didn't use PEDs. And he had 374 homers before he was caught.
Hey,
Jackson,
what year was it that he hit 73 home runs in a season?
Like 2000.
It was 2001, and by the way, that was during a year he used PEDs.
Steroids, yeah.
Hard to do something so unheard of if you're clean. You know what I'm saying?
I understand the whole argument about. Listen, I understand he added strength to when it comes to the home run. Sorry to cut you off, Jackson, but you still got to give the man credit for hitting 33, 25, 34, 46 homers in 1993, 37, 33, 42, 40. Those are still incredible numbers that even before the steroid era happened, you got to give the man his credit about being one of the best hitters in the game.
Like not even seen
and you're right. Hey, you're right. Give credit where credit's due, and they do give him credit. Here's the thing: his numbers are still in the record books, and there's no asterisk beside saying, "Oh, by the way, he was using PEDs," or none of that. They don't use those PEDs against him in the record books, but they are not going to allow a man in the Major League Hall. They're not going to represent using PEDs in the Major League Hall of Fame. That's what the committee said. So we are with you saying these record numbers should be recognized, which they are, but it's not going to go as so far as being represented in the Hall of Fame.
And Daniel,
how many seasons was he used for PEDs, or was recognized using PEDs?
From 2006 to 2007 is what's basically like, allegedly, that's when he started using
2001 to 2007.
But I don't know that people are saying that they estimated that he used it like late 90s, around the 98 era.
98
or that
to 2007.
Season.
That's a total of what? 10 seasons?
All right, Daniel, I want to hear your intake on this, but before you do, I just want to say this just to combat you, Steven, really quick. And Chase is absolutely right. It's not like the MLB is going to say, well, screw you, Barry Bonds. We don't care what you did prior to your steroids, because they do appreciate it. They didn't revoke his Rookie of the Year. They didn't revoke any of his
MVP awards either. They didn't provoke any of it. They didn't remove his record. He still has the most record for home runs. Even none of that's going to be removed stat wise. But also at the same time, I have to look at it and go like, okay, the main argument for what the committee was talking about was the moral reason moral, saying we have a high moral here about not allowing guys using performance enhancement drugs. I got to be honest with you, man, and this is just something that's just purely speculative. I don't have any research on. You telling me that 100% of the people that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame have never used a performance enhancement drug, have never used cheating, have never used some sticky substance or anything else.
Yeah, Greg Maddux probably has.
I just look at it that way of going like, I don't think that everybody in the Hall of Fame that has been inducted is this morally right person that they're just like, oh, well, you represented the game so well. Here's the Hall of Fame.
So here's the thing. And Steven, you're right. And there might be somebody in the Hall of Fame that might have touched performance-enhancing drugs. But the ultimate thing is, There's nobody that you can name that has touched those drugs that heavily influence a guy's accomplishments like Barry Bonds. And putting a guy like Barry Bonds, though he had a Hall of Fame worthy career before those enhancement drugs, it would be a disservice to the guys who are sitting in the Hall of Fame who did everything without having to touch any of those things. Like Hank Aaron. It's not like he's not deserving because everyone knows that he is, but you can't put a guy in there because it doesn't represent the league well. It does a disservice to guys who actually did it by their own means. And you see it everywhere in sports. It's not like baseball's the only thing. Because you asked me this. I know this is taking a big leap from something that's not baseball, but the 2013 Louisville basketball team who won the national championship, you don't think they didn't deserve the national championship? Because they absolutely did. They were the best team in the world at the time. But why was their national championship revoked? Because they illegally recruited their guys. So we're not saying that, you shouldn't be recognized as this great team, because they definitely were, but you can't morally get named the national championships if you did it by taking a big advantage illegally that other teams just didn't have. And you got to take the same viewpoint when it comes to Barry Bonds. But Daniel, I want to hear what you have.
Yeah, I want to hear what Daniel, that's what I was going to say. I also think this is going to be a discussion for another day, but shout out to Yankees Alex Rodriguez. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. And the reason why I think he should be in the Hall of Fame is because he admitted to using Performance Cream during the 2010 to 2012 season, and he hit 74 homers. But the other seasons, he hit like 40s, 50s without any PEDs. But I want to hear what Daniel Karp has to say about Barry Bonds since he's on my side.
Yeah,
Steven.
I'll keep it short and sweet. His numbers, Hall of Fame numbers. He holds so much records and offensively, and you just like watch him. All right. So you have Babe Ruth in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds is like modern day Babe Ruth. Like when you watch that guy and you look at him, and like he has such similar numbers to a guy where everybody says like, oh yeah, that guy Babe Ruth, he would not be able to play in today's game. Where Barry Bonds has played in a game where I feel like it's close enough to what we have today.
People were different decades.
Yeah, he played in 3 different decades. I think it's pretty similar. Obviously, the game's evolved, pitch clock, yada yada. People are throwing 100 miles an hour with 20-inch horizontal movement, but I think he's played in an era where it's close enough to where we are today, where I think that his numbers should be recognized in a Hall of Fame, because if we're going to tell our kids one day, like, hey, this guy Barry Bonds, he was probably the greatest hitter of all time. Did he do it illegally? Yeah. Was it entertaining? Hell yeah, absolutely. But like, this is the guy that like this is, and then I don't like it's like, hey, like, why isn't Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame? He holds all these records, hit the crap out of the ball all these years, dominated the league. Why isn't he recognized as a Hall of Famer? Well, kid, he used steroids. Don't do drugs. But I think that he took baseball at a time where it was at its worst, and he brought it back to a high. So I think I don't, I honestly, the way you guys described it, made me look at it a different way. But I'm gonna stick with my gut and say that he is a Hall of Famer. Not do I think he will be? Probably not. I think MLB is very they're very strict with their values, which is respectful.
Sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
But my stance on this: if Pete Rose is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, there's no chance that Barry Bonds is ever going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And also,
Pete Rose,
we're talking about the sticky stuff and everything. It's like Edwin Diaz just got ejected like 3 hours ago. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer.
It was Rosen.
I don't know what it was. I don't care. I hate the Mets.
Yeah,
I hate Edwin Diaz. Right. I don't care. Good for him.
You see how you've seen the effect that it has. So okay, I'm not sure. Again, don't have any statistics to back this up. I'm just off the dome here when it comes to these pitchers. Every pitcher that you're talking about in the 90s, you're telling me that they didn't use a spider tack, sticky substance, or anything else?
Oh, they did. They most definitely did.
And I get it. Different rules back then. Those weren't as much under a microscope as they are today. But also at the same time, if we're going to sit there and change rules over now and here, I mean, because let's say back in the '90s, somebody got caught smoking weed, then they're probably going to be suspended for the rest of the year. Nowadays, we're seeing how things are kind of changing and things are kind of
uses those
evolving.
zinnies.
I mean, listen, I feel like if Aaron Judge tomorrow gets us, caught smoking weed, do you think he's going to be suspended for the rest of the year? I don't.
He'd be the new king of crash.
It's
Jackson was holding that, waiting for that for 5 minutes.
Waiting, man. I got a whole deck, man.
This whole spiel that I have is there is a point to it.
Basically, what I'm saying is that
with the games evolving, with the game obviously changing for the future generation and all these different things that are evolving here, I just think that there's going to be a time where we look back and go, man, I know the man used steroids, but with the stats that he had in Pittsburgh, with the stats that he had in his entire career, him not being in the Hall of Fame is just it's a blip in the game. It's a blip because the man's obviously, listen, without the steroids, I still think the man finishes out as a top 5 player in the game in the history.
It's a joke. It's just a joke.
Jackson, all right.
Hey,
please stop. Please
I'm gonna ignore what Jackson just said, and Steven, I'm gonna compliment what you said, and it's an argument that you have to attack from both sides, because like you said, without his steroids, is he still a top 5 player of all time? I would say probably, and it's unfortunate that Barry Bonds, he played in that PED, like he said in the podcast. He's like, I played in that PED era. Like, it was probably happening all around me. He said, he said that he felt like he had an unfair spotlight on him because he was the player that stand out all through that era. He was the player that was doing things that are unheard of. Now these other guys in the background that, again, were probably using steroids like he was.
He just wasn't doing as good.
Exactly. And he was like, but he's like, and I like his approach to it. He goes, does it suck that I'm not in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Does it bother me? He's like 100%. He's like, but at the end of the day, I know the type of player that I was, even without the steroids. And the Hall of Fame's not really, willing to recognize that. He says, I know I am, and I know I have several fans out there that are as well. So it's an argument you have to attack from both sides. And I understand that committee side of it too. They want to keep it more. They don't I think they fear that if they put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, it's saying, it's saying that, hey, we are okay. Exactly.
To put Pete Rose, to put Alex Rodriguez, to put Roger Clemens, to put.
And then it's going to open up the door to what they're already trying to get rid of.
To be fair,
players
we're just kind of arguing a mute point at the end of the day because now Barry Bonds is his eligibility to reach the Hall of Fame is it's past its due. It's like 2022 was the last year he was able to get in, and he missed out on it. It was actually kind of close. I just looked it up. He had 66% votes to try and put him into the Hall of Fame, and he needed 75. Is that what
he needs? 75.
Yeah. So he was close, but obviously there was just no way that the committee was ever going to allow him to be into the Hall of Fame. So, it stinks, but also at the same time, there is going to be a time in the future to where even we're kind of seeing it now, just like, dude, Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame, it just doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. I know what you mean. It's just a question about whether is it right, is it morally right, and that's the center of the argument.
Anybody else got any points they want to make?
No,
I don't know.
I feel like. Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for this debate and this episode of Dinger Dudes. Make sure you guys check us out on Instagram and TikTok. It's Dinger Dudes everywhere you look. I want to thank Daniel Karp for coming on in this episode.
Thank you. Hey, a round of applause to Daniel Karp, man.
Very busy schedule,
show, man.
Dude. Look at that quick mind. The man had the knowledge to put Barry Bonds right behind him. That was awesome.
And I hope y'all like my card references.
Hey, Daniel,
awesome.
Real quick, I just want to do you have anything you want to shout out?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually had a point before the thing went off. We were talking about Vlad. We were talking about Vlad before. This is like a weird team that might a weird team that might want to move on from somebody. If the Blue Jays want to move on, maybe the Tigers want to move on from Spencer Torkelson.
Mm.
I don't
That's
know.
a
it's
tough decision to make
very,
after the year.
Yeah,
very,
'cause
it's
he was
very
drafted number one.
unlikely, but it's just it's an interesting
Trade deadline's
interesting
going
way
to be
look at it.
interesting this year.
So
Absolutely.
where do you think Torkelson would end up theoretically if he did leave?
I don't know. Like I could see him with the Blue Jays. I could also
Oh,
see him
wow.
with the Giants. I
Ooh,
could
Definitely.
see,
I could see
I
him
like
with
that
one of the
fit. I
national
like that
see him
fit.
with the Giants. I think
Cool.
he needs a change. I don't
Yeah.
think he's the
Yeah.
future of the time. I don't think he's part of their future plans, unfortunately.
It does
Yeah,
feel
the
that way.
Tigers, they're just one of those teams that don't have that true identity yet. So I think,
They don't have
that
an
actually,
they don't have an identity right now. Like they do, but
right.
they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a weird team. They're a weird team that I think could make some heavy moves in the trade deadline. I think it would do them good to go heavy in this deadline.
Yeah, so the Braves are haunting me. I played MLB The Show before I hopped on this, and the Braves beat me in the World Series.
Oh,
My road to the
wow.
my road to the show.
It's a sign,
Hopefully that foresees the future.
I
I was
would,
pretty
Foresees the
I was
future is
pretty
crazy.
upset.
that would be fantastic.
I would love that. That'd be awesome.
But all right,
Like
again,
an
Daniel,
outcome.
thank you for so much for coming on the show. I want to obviously you guys, Andrew, Chase, Jackson, love being on with you guys, and also we have some exciting stuff coming up in the future. Danny Espinosa interview, a former Washington National. We have an interview coming up with him, and also Jackson, names escaping me. We have another interview coming up with
Former Rays prospect Eric Osberg, former
Eric
Rays catcher.
Osper. There was, man, I suck with names. I apologize. But Eric Osper, we have an interview coming up with him as well. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up for the channel. Obviously, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel.
We're almost to 100 subscribers. We'll do a 100 subscribers special. Don't know what it will be yet, but it will be exciting. I promise you that. We might do a wings challenge at Jefferson's in Carrollton, Georgia.
So please shout it out. Shout this out to as many people as you can. Shout out to your friends. Shout out to your family. Make sure that they know that we have some exciting content coming here every week. We have some exciting stuff coming up in the future. More skits, more videos, possibly
And
some more
Daniel, if you want
vlogs
to
coming
be
up.
a
Who
part of
knows?
any future skits or stuff, just send me videos,
Just
man.
reach out. You know where I'm at.
Yeah, Daniel Karp, if you even want to come back on the show at some point, just always
of
hit us up
course.
because
Yeah.
we love to have you
call
back
in
on.
when the semester starts. You know where to call.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
And
We're trying to do a WWE show.
Ooh.
Oh, give me a call, dude. I will be on that show tomorrow.
I've been pushing for it.
Holy,
That's
dude!
you
I
just
could
talk
talk with you
Steven's
for
language.
hours about that show.
We did one for I don't know if you guys remember when we did Sports Down in April. It was right after WrestleMania. It was awesome. Josh Martinez came up.
It's such an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. It really
right
is.
now. I just got back into it like in January. Just got back into it.
It's
I used to be in it when I was a kid. Yeah, big Super Cena fan. Still pushing for him. They won 17, but
now I'm a big Cody Rhodes mark, so I love it. All right, well, that's all we have time for. Obviously, thank you for everybody for listening, and we will see you all next time.